Idly-ho, Drinkerinos. Welcome to episode 4 of the Idaho Booze Podcast. I am your host, Steve Kuntz. On today's show, we talk to marketing wizards Ben Hart and Keith Nero of 44 North Vodka and Sazerac Whiskeys to uncover the best summer cocktails to chill us out during these absolute doggiest days of summer. Woo, it is hot out there. We talk about 44 North, Sazerac brands, and which spirits are hot right now in Idaho. I'll also go over some brew news, including an Idaho brewery taking home a medal, and the struggles of a once mighty king. All that, plus Friday Night Pints, on today's Idaho Booze Podcast. This episode is sponsored by Like Button. Okay, you've started a business and you built a website and a Facebook page. Now, where are the new customers? Navigating the waters of digital marketing is time-consuming, complicated, and costly. So let Like Button do it for you. With plans starting as low as $2,000, Like Button specializes in helping small businesses grow up and larger businesses scale by putting together a strategy and maximizing ROI numbers through paid ads, omni-channel marketing, and even SEO. Go to likebutton.us for your digital marketing needs and get back to doing what you do best. Grow your business with Like Button. Now today I wanted to talk about how we discuss the drinking of alcohol relative to past eras. When you work in and around beer, wine, and spirits for a long time, you sort of lose the meaning of what we like to call normal drinking. So, you work in booze, you're going to be out. It's like anything else. If you work in the car business, you're going to drive a lot of cars. If you work in the landscaping business, you're going to be out there mowing lawns. Well, when you work in the booze business, you're out there drinking booze a lot of the time, whether you're trying things at the brewery or you're sampling with one of your clients or you're hosting an event and you have to, hang out with a lot of people that are there to have a good time. They don't want to see you not having a good time. So you have maybe a beer or two while you're at an event. Anyway, it's just part of the sort of MO of the business. And even though I worked in the beer business for quite some time, for about 10 years, I still prescribe to the notion that alcohol is a celebratory beverage. It's something that you want to take out. It's something that you want to celebrate with. It's something that you want to show off when you have a fun bottle of something, or when you get a new bottle of wine, or you want to gather with your family or friends and you want to make it a special time. Then you get something really good to share with everybody. I still believe that, and it's tough. That notion is a tough one for a lot of people because maybe they get too used to this sort of everyday drinking that goes on when you work in the business. Now, that's not to say that we don't celebrate the end of a work day or the beginning of a Sunday or playing 18 holes with our friends. Sure, it does. We obviously, those are celebratory times. Have a drink, have a beer, have a glass of wine, have a mimosa, whatever you want to do. We are not here to cast aspersions. The way in which we can drink and how much is the right amount to drink has been discussed over time as much as anything else in our history. And I wanted to go over some of that today because I saw something the other day that was really interesting. It showed, I think it was on Facebook, it was a list of the booze and alcohol and everything consumed at George Washington's retirement party, and it was epic. If you didn't see this thing, it was pretty amazing. 54 bottles of Madeira, which is this sort of light wine they had back then. I don't know that there's really anything that's kind of similar to it now. Maybe like a heavier version of a wine cooler. It was only about 6 or 7% alcohol, but still Madeira. 60 bottles of claret, which is a wine, red wine. 8 bottles of whiskey. 8 bottles of cider. 12 bottles of beer. And 7 quote-unquote large bowls of punch. So that's quite the party. The bar bill equaled just over $15,000 in today's dollars, and there were only 55 guests. 55 guests! That's like 2.5 bottles of wine per guest. It's amazing. This is 7 large bowls of punch, over 100 bottles of wine. This was consumed. This wasn't what they brought to the party. This is what didn't make it out of the party. So, when you go to a wedding or something, and the wedding is going on and they're like, well, we bought X amount of bottles of this and X amount of bottle of that. This isn't the leftovers. This is what was drank. I just imagine that the 12-pack of beer was there to sober everyone up. before hitting the road in their horse and buggies. Can you imagine teeny tiny little John Adams over there in the corner after drinking 2.5 bottles of wine, screaming yieldy obscenities at Thomas Jefferson, while the Marquis de Lafayette and James Madison drunkenly throw wine corks at Patrick Henry's head? Give me liberty from these drunk dicks, or give me death. What a party. My God, $15,000 for 55 people. That is amazing. That's why we look up to the founding fathers, I think. They could really put it down. Then you have maybe the most famous functional drunk of all time, Sir Winston Churchill. My God, this guy wouldn't get out of bed, literally, before having at least a few scotch and sodas. Next time you have a free 3-day weekend, when this comes up, try this out. Start on Friday and just try it. It's a great way to get to the emergency room. 7:30 a.m. you wake up. You stay in bed. That's a key part of it. You don't get out of bed. You stay there. You eat your English breakfast, beans, eggs, sausage, whatever the hell they eat over there. And with that, four scotch and sodas. 11 a.m. you get out of bed, finally. You take a little garden stroll, another scotch and soda. That's 5. 1 p.m. you work through lunch with 4 glasses of champagne, 4 of them, whole bottle. 3:30, you're going to calm down a little bit now. Glass of cognac, calm it down. 5 o'clock, Churchill was famous for his power naps at 5 o'clock. And with that power nap, you guessed it, another scotch and soda. 6:30 p.m., he'd wash up for dinner, another scotch and soda. 8 p.m., 4 more glasses of champagne with dinner and guests and everything. And then midnight, round things out with some cigars and more cognac. And you have to imagine also that the whole time, Churchill is obviously smoking cigars. So he's just pounding cigars, pounding scotch and sodas. That's 16 drinks in total for the day while the man was trying to save the free world. The average ABV for each drink is around 17%. My God. And roughly the recommended weekly amount of booze in 3/4 of a day. That's what I like to call legendary. My God. I would try this, but I'm pretty sure that nap at 5 p.m. would go all the way until 9 a.m. the following day. This guy, by the time he rolled out of bed, he had a blood alcohol level of about me after a Friday happy hour. So all of this is to say that maybe there isn't a right way to properly use alcohol that fits everyone. Maybe some people can drink all day and be unaffected. And if true, then the opposite must always be true, that some people are lightweights. And there's nothing wrong with that. Interesting to think that in the late 18th century, when men were at least 5 or 6 inches shorter, I would say probably 30, 40 pounds lighter on average. In John Adams' case, he was about 12 inches shorter. They were putting away 2.5 bottles of wine per person at a party with the outgoing president. And now we're told that if you exceed 2 drinks a day, then you might as well receive your last rites. Anyway, great show today. Coming up next, we'll do some brew news, and then we'll have Ben Hart from 44 North Vodka and his good buddy Keith Nero from Sazerac Brands in to discuss fun summer cocktails, and we'll see how many scotch and sodas each of them has before getting out of bed. All that next on the Idaho Booze Podcast. Welcome back to the Idaho Booze Podcast. I am your host, Steve Kuntz, here for another episode 4. And this one is a good one. You don't want to miss out on this one. Share it with your friends. Like us, love us, Spotify, Apple, Substack, wherever you can find us. Make sure you're getting us. Share us with a friend if you can. That'd be awesome, because this episode is not to be missed. We have Ben Hart from 44 North Vodka and Keith Nero from Sazerac Brands in just a bit, and they're going to talk about their respective brands, and we're going to share some summer cocktails that you guys can have in the upcoming dog days of summer. Ooh, it is hot out there. You're going to want to stay tuned for that. Anyway, we are on to our brew news section here. We got brew news and plenty of it. Looks like Bud Light continues to struggle. Got to feel sorry for the former king of beers here. Bud Light, formerly the top-selling beer in the U.S., has had a rough time since the boycott. I don't have much to say about that. The boycott's hilarious. I remember the people shooting their guns at the Bud Light. That was fun. I remember Kid Rock saying he would never touch Bud Light again, and the rest of us not really believing that. And now it seems that there is a new king of beers in the U.S., and it is a very American beer. Oh, wait, no, just hearing now. It is Modelo. Modelo's the new number one beer in the U.S., top seller at retailers in the U.S. after surpassing Bud Light last year. And Bud Light was number two for quite some time. Number two, and then, stabbed in the back by its own brother, Michelob Ultra, now the number two beer in the U.S. Modelo still the top at 9.7% of market share. Michelob Ultra, 7.3%. Bud Light, poor little Bud Light, 6.5% of beer dollar sales compared to the other ones. Now this is on top of the boycott when they had the influencer Dylan Mulvaney do some internet commercials, I guess they were. I don't really remember. I remember seeing them a little bit. It wasn't really something I paid a lot of attention to, but apparently many of you did, because now nobody drinks Bud Light anymore. And I can't say I blame them. It's not my favorite beer. I don't mind a Bud Light. No, you know what? I'm not even going to fake it. I am not a fan of Bud Light. I never really have been. I've always preferred other light beers. Michelob Ultra is actually one that I prefer to Bud Light. It's actually a lighter beer, easier to drink. Bud Light to me is looking like it's on its last legs here. If I had to put it in a way that, like a sports analogy, I would say that it's not looking good for Bud Light. They've had a couple of rough drafts, and now they're going down. So best of luck for you guys over at Anheuser-Busch. You still have the number two beer, just now it's Michelob Ultra. Good for you. Well, it looks like another brand has stepped up to save Sam Adams. Not since the 1770s has Sam Adams needed more help to stay up on his feet. Twisted Tea is now the majority of Boston Beer's volume, and according to Brewbound, has become the only meaningful source of growth for the company. So I don't have any axe to grind here or anything like that. I never met Jim Koch. I don't know, or Cook or whatever his name is. I don't know anybody that's ever worked for Sam Adams. I don't think. If I do, I'm sorry, I don't remember. But one thing has become very clear within the Boston Beer Company, and that is that Sam Adams is not floating that boat. It hasn't for a decade. Before Twisted Tea, it was Angry Orchard. Or it was probably Truly, actually. Before Twisted Tea, it was Truly. Then before Truly, it was Angry Orchard. This company hasn't been solvent on its beer brands for a decade at least. And that's because, let's face it, Sam Adams is not good beer right now. Have you had a Sam Adams lately? It's a kind of overdone amber lager that just isn't refreshing. It isn't tasty. It's not craveable. And I don't necessarily blame Sam Adams, but I don't necessarily not either, because they failed to really adapt to the pressing needs of the market. Nobody wants Sam Adams. Nobody wants Sam Adams Light. These are beers that people don't drink anymore. And it's because of the market change. The market has changed to hoppy. The market has changed to maybe a little bit more boozy. And the market has changed to something where you have multiple layers of flavor, such as like a hazy IPA or a hazy double IPA or stouts or anything else really besides amber lager. Now, that's not to say that we shouldn't give credit where credit is due. Sam Adams, an amazing brand for 30 years. Jim Koch, an icon in this business. But instead of adapting their beers to match the growing market, they went ahead and bought Dogfish Head. They went ahead and bought Dogfish Head. So that was supposed to be their big move to stay relevant. And really all it's done is move Dogfish Head up in the scales as far as having better distribution, probably get some better hop contracts, probably get some better grain contracts, and be able to brew more Dogfish Head, which I'm all for. Hey, if that's Sam Adams' lasting legacy going into the 2020s, making Dogfish Head more available to me and to everyone around, God bless him. I love Dogfish Head. But Sam Adams is what I'm talking about here. And just having now Twisted Tea as their big volume, it's just a sad thing. I mean, Twisted Tea, that is about as far away as you can get from Jim Koch's, pledge of craft beer, being one of the founding fathers, literally, of craft beer. I mean, his face is up on Mount Beermore for sure. That's an interesting thing. Like, what? I wonder who all would be up there. It'd be Cook. It would probably be, I mean, I'd put Sam Castiglione on there, even though now they're kind of partners. I would still put him up there. I love Dogfish Head. I'd put Greg Cook up there, ironically, same last name. I'd put Greg up there for Stone. And then Twisted Tea, keeping the boat afloat over at Sam Adams. Good for you, Boston Brewing. I think that you couldn't give a worse representation to a craft beer brand than Twisted Tea. Truly a milestone for you and your company. Congratulations. And some good news to report. It looks like our friends at Jim Dandy Brewing over in Pokey got a medal. Looks like they got a gold medal at the U.S. Open Beer Championship for their cream ale, Tango Yankee cream ale. Awesome job, guys. Second year in a row they've gotten a medal for that particular beer. Looks like this is one of those nice light beers that they do. Traditional cream ale made with some, looks like corn. It's sort of like a light lager, but brewed with ale yeast. Gotta love that. Coming up in the show, we have Ben Hart and Keith Nero. Ben works for 44 North, Keith with Sazerac Brands, and we're going to be talking booze on the Idaho Booze Podcast. I am your host, Steve Kuntz, and we will be doing that right after this. This episode brought to you by Idaho Brewers United, or IBU. Have you heard? IBU is going digital. The Idaho Brewers Trail app will have brewery profiles, beer news, and detailed information on your favorite Idaho beers. As if that's not enough, there will also be a Brewers Trail point system to grant you prizes and rewards just for hitting up Idaho's amazing breweries. Sign up for IBU's Brew News at idahobrewers.org for the app's release and other news from Idaho's brews. All that and more at idahobrewers.org. Well, welcome back to the Idaho Booze Podcast. I'm your host, Steve Kuntz, and with me today are Ben Hart and Keith Nero. Hey, guys.
How's it going?
Howdy.
It's going great. How are you guys doing?
Trying to stay cool in the warm weather.
Trying to stay out of that smoke.
Oh, my God. The last couple of days have been crazy with the smoke. So you guys are out there right now. Go ahead and tell me a little bit about yourselves. Ben, start with you. Where did you start? How long have you worked in the industry? Who do you work for now? All that good stuff.
All right, I'll try and summarize it, but started in a little dive bar called Club Savvy's way back in 2009. Never had a drink of booze in my life until my 21st birthday, and then became the assistant manager by 21 and a half years old. A lot of people don't know that. Started running that place, then decided I wanted to be a big dog and go downtown Boise. Started managing a bar in downtown Boise, and then that place closed down, and then I became the head mixology guy. I hate that term, but for 44 North, did that for a few years, and then thought it would be fun to go and be a manager of a new restaurant that popped up in Meridian called Homestead. That
Deep
was
Meridian.
Deep Meridian. It was a great time. I was there for 3.5 years, developed one of the best beer programs in Idaho, had some of the top cocktails that Meridian could ever see, because I was the only place that knew what chartreuse was. And then left there to go, I got scouted by a brewery and ran their state sales program for about 4.5 years, left there and came back home to 44 North Vodka. So that's my gist now. I've been lucky enough, I don't know if this matters, but I've been lucky enough to travel all over the U.S., learning about different spirits, going to Mexico to Patron, doing Tiki by the Sea, Camp Runama, Portland Cocktail Week, and I think my highest accolade was Tales of the Cocktail. That was a tough program to get into, and you had to have the knowledge and everything about that to get into it. And it's actually going on right now. By the way, it's also National Tequila Day.
What?
So we're going to talk about vodka.
Awesome. And whiskey.
And whiskey.
Right, Keith?
And that's about it for me. Still just pedaling away on 44. So
We're gonna circle back to Homestead because I have a lot of good questions about the time there, because that's where I got to know you while you were at Homestead. And there's a lot of fun stuff that went on there that I think we could get into a little bit. Keith, go ahead and tell us about yourself.
Started off just kind of beer tending downtown at Pre-Funk. The downtown spot's closed, but Nampa's still alive and well. Bartended at a little place over in Meridian called Heritage Shop House. I was 21, getting out of college, needed a job, and got approached by a local distributor that sells Molson Coors. Worked for them for a little over 2 years. Didn't want to stay around there too long, so went to a small little brewery here locally, Bear Island. Then COVID hit. That was super fun and unique. Then after COVID, switched over to Western Collective with Ben. Beth is awesome. Love Bear Island. Just we had different views on what the growth of the company would look like and kind of the efforts that were going to go into it. So Western was a little more aligned with the speed and getting into market super aggressively. Worked there for about 2.5 years. And then after that, switched over to Sazerac. Western was going to a distributor, and I just didn't want to go back to a distributor again at the time. So I ended up working for a liquor supplier, Sazerac. Carry brands like Buffalo Trace, Fireball. We just released Traveler, Southern Comfort, Corazon Tequila. So we have a huge book. And I've been with them. I'll hit my 2 years in October.
So what do you guys find to be the biggest difference between selling beer and selling booze?
The stresses are very different and fun. So the nice part about selling beer was we did deliveries. So
we did self-distro.
Well, even when I was at Molson, even when I worked for CSB, though, you could go in and you could sell in a program or sell in, hey, we're going to run this for the next few months. And I wrote the delivery, so I knew that keg was going to show up. I knew the wine was going to be put on the menu. I knew that was all going to be happening. With liquor, it's a lot more faith and it's a lot more relationship based. You have to rely on the account to follow through on what they say they're going to do. But liquor programs run a lot longer than beer programs do. So once you do get that in, it's more of just maintaining, building that relationship and staying with it and making sure that the account is seen and taken care of.
Yeah. Kind of the same thing. The toughest part is making sure that manager remembers to put you on the order.
Yeah, because it's different. You don't actually sell booze. You sell the idea of booze, and then they have to go buy it from the state liquor store, right?
Correct.
Yeah,
yes.
yeah. So we can in Utah, you can't even sample them on products, so that's a more even difficult market because it's, hey, take me at my word that your customer is going to enjoy this and that you're going to sell it. At least here, if you sit down with a manager, you're allowed to sample. It's a small amount, but you can still let them try it before they have to buy it.
Yeah.
The Utah is a different market, is a different show altogether.
Yeah. When I was in the beer side, it was boom, instant sale, boom, instant sale, boom, instant sale. Where up here, with the liquor side, is holy crap, like this might take 3 weeks. I'm going to have to go see that same manager for 3 weeks, sometimes a month, things like that.
Sometimes twice a week.
Twice a week.
You could look at a proof 1,000 times before you actually get it approved for print because there's so many small, minute, little minuscule details that, if you got a bad beer poster, maybe you're off by a letter. Okay, well, it's just for the weekend and we're not going to get them printed in time. But some of my liquor menus have been up for over a year.
Yeah.
There is the positive side is we don't actually have to deal with what's that? Well, I'm spacing it. Aid to
delivery.
No.
Aid to retailers.
You certainly do not have to deal with that.
So it's a little more Wild West. Like we had a friend that got.
You guys want
fined.
menus? Here's menus. You want coasters? Here's coasters.
Exactly. We have a buddy that got fined $1,000 for giving out, I think, 100 coasters. Not 100 coaster sleeves, just 100 coasters.
I think we all have that same buddy.
And yeah, I don't want to mention his name, but we. In the liquor side, it's like, oh, you bought this many bottles of vodka from me. Here's a case and a half of coasters. And it's...
The state looks at promotional items differently. Aid to retail is still a very large thing. It's just, for some reason, there seems to be a small disconnect on what is considered a promotional item when you're selling liquor and when you're selling beer. And I'm curious if it is because of delivery. Like in Oregon, I believe, they had a delivery fee for a while there from one of the distributors where they would charge you for the delivery. Here in Idaho, that's not a thing. Like, not at all.
Nor should it be.
Keg deposits are different as well. So it's a difference of how we approach the account and what we can offer them, because there are certain things that beer can do
that we can't touch.
I'm not even getting. I don't even want to get it. I'm like, hey, that's a beer thing. That's not a me thing. I'm sorry, I can't do it.
Aid to retailer. 3 words that I never wanted to hear again.
I was gonna say my favorite part is not getting woken up at like 6 a.m. on a Saturday from a delivery driver. Hey, we don't have this keg, or getting called at 10 a.m. on a Sunday. Hey, we're going into brunch and my Coors Light keg just blew, and it's okay. Well, you have fun with that.
Yeah, I've gotten calls like that before from clients more so than
Yeah.
But that's part of being in the business, I guess. You got to serve your clients to a certain extent.
Well, and you take care of the ones that take care of you.
Because liquor is, maybe it's more professional, I guess, in this manner, but I'll get a text on Monday. Hey, I've got an event coming up on Friday. Any chance you could stop by for an hour and a half and buy some people some shots of Fireball? Not a problem. I can plan it out. Tell the wife, hey, on Friday, we're going to head over to Heritage Social. There's live music. We're going to go buy some shots of Fireball, hand out some shirts to some customers, and probably get a free flatbread.
Nice.
Yeah.
That does sound nice. I've always known that you liquor guys had it a lot better than us poor bastards in the beer business. And now you're just making it so clear.
We went through the trenches, though. We did our
You guys sure did. You did. That's true. Go ahead and, as the kids like to say, give us the lore on 44 North, and then if you want to, give us a little bit of background on Sazerac as well.
The lore? All right. So started about 20 years ago. Came out with a couple different vodkas. Huckleberry being our main runner and still running today, because everybody knows in the PNW, Huckleberries are what turn the world apparently. So started there. We were distilling out of Rexburg at the time. And from my knowledge, what we got was enough money to finally finance our own distillery. So we started doing our own stuff out of Shelley, Idaho.
Still east.
Still very, very east Idaho. Since then, we've expanded to cherry, nectarine, which I brought,
Nice.
Watermelon, which I did not bring, but and then just really promoting all Idaho brand. So everything that we get comes from Idaho. Everything's all natural. There's no fake flavors or anything at all.
No shortcuts on the Huckleberry?
No.
Oh, you don't want that heat, my friend.
So the shortcut is, it's called a, what is it? It's
Tincture.
no, it's a swirling column still, which the science behind that is insane, made by a bunch of nerds. What it does is it's almost like a centrifuge and a still put together, and so we put all the fruit in there depending on which one we're flavoring with, and then it spins and then distills and then goes up through all the columns, and then you get that pure flavor that comes out, drops, and then we're taking all that, and then for every batch, I'm not the distiller, but I watched him do it, and it's all weighted and measured perfectly, so you get the same product every time. The company's ran literally by, we've got 4 owners is what I say, which is nice. And then we've got a part-time crew that comes on and does all the bottling and everything.
Yeah.
And then just a few office people, and then we've got a few people nationwide because we're in 45 states.
So let's just go back real quick to the nerd stuff, because I am on record as saying I understand how distilling works. I can tell you the steps, but I think it's alchemy from there on. Once you add the heat to it and it starts going up the column, I have no idea how those guys get any flavor or get smoothness or any of that stuff. So you're saying you're on the sales side, so you don't make it, but do you get a better grasp of that every time you go over there, or is it one of those things that you're just throw your hands up and I don't know?
So I've been in lots of distilleries, and it's like going to different breweries. You're like, how do you make this, double fresh hop whatever. It doesn't
Yeah.
make any sense.
Yeah.
Because you're not the scientist.
How do 8 hop cones that smell like pine and resin come out with watermelon flavor?
Exactly.
Yeah, no idea.
So, when it depends, what were you gonna say?
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say.
Don't be shy.
So, like, when it comes to vodka, because you want it as neutral as possible. So, American vodka was created as a post-World War II product, given to a generation who were raised on the evils of drinking. So it's post-prohibition parenthood. And so now we're moving into a more clean American vodka where you have brands like 44 North that are adding flavor, but they're adding it post-distillation. Is it post-distillation or during distillation?
So ours is post.
Okay. And that would be classic. And so you start with like your potato vodka, which is super clean and smooth, and it's the columns. As it runs through, basically it runs through, it's kind of like a filtration system. You remember hitting a bong like in high school? The more...
No.
Okay,
No.
yeah. Oh, shit, sorry, wrong state. The more columns you have, the more time that you're pulling the vapor through, the more times that the vapor heats and cools, and the more times it heats and cools, the more times you're going to start dropping out some of the impurities. That's a column still. And you have something like a pot still where you're going to have your big mash, you're going to fill it full of your mash, which is just basically undistilled sugar water. And that's like when you start getting into things like bourbon, you're going to be using corn and rye and barley and wheats. And then you go to a tequila, you're going to be using agave. It's where you're pulling your sugar source from, which is going to add a huge proponent of what your post-distillation flavor is. And then there's the heat. What's the rate that it'll evaporate at? I think 182 to like 210 is like before you start boiling out, and you're just pulling off, and it's slow and steady or fast depending on what you're trying to make. It's also your cooling and heating process, and then it's your mash bill. How much corn are you using? How much rye do you have? And then post that, when you're going away from a neutral spirit like vodka, you're going into your barrels, the charring, the oak, the level. The saturation.
Yeah, it's insane, especially when you jump out of vodka.
Clearly, Keith paid attention.
I like booze.
I like booze too. He's got a niche for remembering all the numbers, but
Me too.
Yeah,
it's just like one of those things where I've been to multiple distilleries, I've watched it, and I think it's neat that you guys take the Huckleberry and so it sounds like you distill the Huckleberry separate from the vodka and then blend it back in.
Yes.
That's really smart because it stretches out that Huckleberry.
So we have the tanks, I believe, are 160s, and we have the blending tank. And so I watched the distiller. He literally just like, boom, here's all the vodka, and then here's some other goodies, and then boom, here's pure Huckleberry, and it's insane. Like, he opened the bucket for the Huckleberry, and you're like, you could smell it, and the room is probably 15 by 15, and he was 10 feet away from me, and all I smelled was pure Huckleberry.
So, Keith, you're at a bigger company. You're Ben's with a local company.
We have to pause really quick.
Okay.
I brought shots.
Oh, we brought shots. Well, okay.
Here's
These are half shots. I like that.
little half shots.
Oh, the
Huckleberry.
people don't- Huckleberry. Okay, here's the Huckleberry.
Cheers.
Try this out.
This also came from our bottle where we put money back to the USS Idaho. So that was a small run, and it was really cool for the company to do.
It's just really smooth. The
is.
thing that comes across with that one is, and here comes the warming, a little bit of warming there,
Mhm.
and it just is so smooth it's an 80 proof vodka, I assume, right?
Yeah, and that's where something like this I put into my when I think about pairing with 44 North. So, like you're saying, I do work for a little bit of a larger company. I think I have like something 435 brands in my book.
Just a little
It's
number.
pretty much the same thing, but
Yeah.
a couple more. We have Fireball.
Yeah. Well, that really is the really cool part about what my company allows me to do in the local Idaho market is I do have Fireball. I also have brands like Southern Comfort, Corazon, which is a tequila we're very proud of.
You were speaking my language.
It's
right?
female owned and operated and distilled. Like, we're very proud to have Corazon. We also have Santa Legas. But I also have brands like Stroika and Fleischmann's. And to me, those are old school American vodkas because is it going to be what I want in a martini? No. But if I'm looking for just a quick vodka soda, it works just fine. Then you start looking at brands like 44, where I do want that in a martini. I do want to drink that by itself. I want to put that over ice and have it. But that's been developed over time.
Well, you got to get people involved at a cheap price point until they can grow up, essentially. When you're 21 and you go to the bar, you're kind of really dumb. You don't know what things cost, what quality is. You're just there to party because you finally were able to leave the hookah bar and go get a really good cocktail somewhere.
I mean, if I'm out with the wife, I'm happy to drink well bourbon with some Coke in it. But yeah, no, and in working at Sazerac, the other really cool side of my coin is I have access to the Buffalo Trace distillery line.
Does that mean you have access to Buffalo Trace bottles?
No. This is the state of Idaho.
That would be amazing if you did.
No.
You can talk about it.
I can talk about it. I can also present it. So part of Buffalo Trace is also things like Benchmark, which is a non-allocated item for us. It's baby Buffalo Trace. It's Buffalo Trace aged half the time, and it's always on the shelf, readily available. But yeah, no, when I do get to talk about Buffalo Trace, I get to talk with accounts that are interested in like the Blantons and Eagle Rares and E.H. Taylor. And while I can't pull those out of a hat and say, hey, this is where you go find it, this is where you get to go buy it, it's still part of the conversation. So
that's what we would like. We want to know where to buy Buffalo Trace.
You let me know, and I'll go buy some.
I have a text. I'm not even kidding. I have a text chain that every time I find it, I text. Oh, it's here! It's here!
So when I started at Sazerac here in Idaho, the amount of texts that I got from people out of the woodworks through Facebook Messenger, not text, was, "Hey, congratulations on the promotion, or congratulations on the new job. Where do I get Blantons?" And it's like, I don't know, man.
Good point too.
And it did get to some point there for a while, and I had no problem with it because, like I said, I'm happy to drink my wells. I go in an account and it'd be a Saturday, and I'd see a bottle of Eagle Rare sitting on the counter, and I was like, oh, my dad would love that. I want to grab that for my dad. And the manager's not there anymore. They've since left the ISLD, but they were like, are you sure you really need to buy that? I'm sure you can get it through your company. I'm like, I really can't.
Yeah.
I really don't just get access to stuff because I really want it. Like, I have to play by the same rules as everybody else, and sometimes I felt like the rules were unfair to me because people knew I worked for Sazerac, that they would give me a hard time if I wanted to pick up a bottle of something.
I have a little bit of a way to maybe sort of make that happen. Maybe a tip, if you would. Get friendly with your local liquor store manager.
Oh, I was.
And ask. Because that's how I have a bottle of Blanton's right now. That's how I got it. I just asked. I was like, it was Thanksgiving, and I wanted something special. I had a bunch of people coming over. I said, do you guys have Blanton's? He said, I got 2 cases of it in the back.
Yeah. Well, I won't tell you what liquor store I live by now, but the new store manager, I absolutely adore him because he plays so fair. You walk in, don't ask, you look around. If you don't see it, it's not there.
That's great too.
Very simple. Doesn't want it, don't ask him. If it's not on the shelf, but he's also very kind that if it is on the shelf, he doesn't be like, he doesn't give me a hard time. And I don't stockpile bourbon because I just don't have enough time in the day to drink enough of it. I have half a bottle of Blanton's sitting at home right now. I do have an E.H. Taylor small batch, and I've got a really, really lucky last year. I found an Eagle Rare single barrel state pick, and I was like, whoa! And I'm very stoked, and I've maybe taken 3 ounces out of that.
I found Eagle Rare. I was living in Utah, and I found it in a liquor store there. And I bought up whatever they had. I think it was 3 bottles. They were $40 a piece. And I texted my friend in Kentucky. He was like, that bottle is $120 here right now. So sometimes it's good to live in a control state. I think that's the only time, but maybe sometimes.
I mean, when I do get lucky to find Weller Special Reserve, it doesn't last long at my house because I absolutely love it.
And what you can say, the positive of a controlled state is that every store carries pretty much as they possibly can, to where in a non-controlled state, they just carry the old classics. We've got Jack, Jim, and Pedro Morales, or whatever.
The 3 wise men.
Yeah. I had a coworker who used to work for RNDC down in California. A lot of them got laid off, unfortunately, recently. But he was telling me about, when Sazerac was still with him, go into a liquor store, and the conversation wasn't, hey, what's cool and new? It's, hey, what is it going to take for me to get this? What is it going to take for this? Mm-hmm. What about this? And I do like that about Idaho, that being in control. I know every liquor store I bump into, I can at least get a bottle of Benchmark.
Yeah. Yep. And you can go to like the non-controlled states and it came from the beer world when you're trying to sell like beer to the airport, and you're never gonna do that. It's all controlled by
one guy,
corporate, right?
Yeah.
But I took that term, and I was like, when I would go to other places, I'm like, oh, you guys got airport taps here, and they would be like, what do you mean? I'm like, well, that's everything I can get at the airport.
Yeah.
Like
nice.
you drink a Stella because it's the only good beer on tap.
It tastes the same everywhere you go.
And it tastes the same everywhere.
Yep.
I'm a Sierra Nevada Pale Ale fan.
Sierra, that's Sierra Nevada. And
you
now
can never beat the Pale.
Any Sierra Nevada, really pretty good. So that's awesome. A little bit about Sazerac. You want to get into the background of them at all? Is there anything kind of fun there?
I mean, cool part is we're privately owned. I respond to one person, our CEO, and outside of that, it like any jobs, it has its up days, it has its down days. I really like our team here. I really like my manager here. So definitely happy with my job. I enjoy when people come into town. I just had some higher ups in town last week, and I used to get really nervous when someone would come into town. I'm like, oh, I have to impress them. And I felt like they spent most of their time asking me what I needed, not what I needed to do. So I'm pretty happy with where I'm at, and I'm enjoying it, and it's definitely a nice breather from beer. And then Buffalo Trace, #1 awarded distillery in the U.S. And then I did bring something today. It's called Traveler. So Harlan Wheating, our master distiller at Buffalo Trace, did a collaboration with Chris Stapleton. He's a musician.
Not familiar.
I am not a music person by any means, and I felt so bad about when I had to learn who he was. I recognized the songs pretty much almost immediately. I just didn't realize he was the person who sang them.
I think he's a country person.
Yeah, he's country. Yeah,
he's very country.
But no, we're super stoked on this, and this is one of the coolest things we've gotten to release here because it's non-allocated in Idaho. So it's something I can finally go to accounts and say, hey, you can get as much of it as you want, as quickly as you want. And then
Sounds a little spicy. What is that? That's not an 80 proof bourbon. That's
90.
90, okay, so it's not quite overproof.
Yeah, so they did over 50 blends. Number 40 is what they landed on. And it's just really important to us that people realize it's a Harlan Wheatley, Chris Stapleton collaboration made at the Buffalo Trace Distillery, because the amount of times I have to explain to people that Buffalo Trace Distillery makes more than just Buffalo Trace shocks me.
Well, I mean, they could go on to Netflix and watch the bourbon documentary, and they'll find out all about what Buffalo Trace makes, right?
Yeah.
It's E.H. Taylor, Weller. I want to say Pappy.
Oh yeah. So we have our
Pappy.
we have our BTAC series, which is like George T. Stagg,
Mhm.
Eagle 17, Sazerac 18.
Oh, and it's Eagle Rare, Eagle Rare.
Yep. Yeah, we've got all that.
I love all those whiskeys.
WLW. We have a great lineup. But like I said, Idaho only gets it once a year, and that is something that's really cool about that Idaho did this year that I actually was stoked about. There's a local group called the Boise Whiskey Enthusiasts. I think they were pretty instrumental in getting this done. But to enter the lottery this year for BTAC and Pappy, because it's not something that just goes out to accounts. We go online and we enter to win these. Well, I don't anymore, but other people get to. You used to be able to have any driver's license, so people were flying in from Texas or Utah, California, Oregon, all over the state.
Carpetbaggers.
Well, they'd won the bottle, so they'd come and pick it up, and you pay $89.99 for a bottle of George T. Stagg here.
And when they turn it,
whatever you
Take
get.
it over there.
Yeah, but this year, either you had to have a military ID or you had to have an Idaho ID. So it really helped put it
Pretty
back
sweet.
in the hands of the people who pay the taxes for our liquor.
God bless you, Boise whiskey enthusiasts.
Yeah.
Well done.
Thank you, Chris.
So thanks. Thanks, Chris. Chris Stapleton.
Chris Schumer.
Oh, Chris Schumer.
Yeah. No, not Chris. Yeah, Chris Schumer.
So Ben, which products are your most popular? Would you say? Besides, I guess the Huckleberry. Right?
All right, so Huckleberry is our #1. Obviously been around the longest. Flows through everything. You can put it in a meal. You can put it in anything.
You put it in a Purple Viking.
Don't even get me started on the Boise Purple Viking, because that'll take 35 minutes to explain. And then Nectarine, which I just poured you a sample of.
This is Nectarine.
Nectarine.
So this is my personal favorite.
This is Keith's personal favorite.
So I call this one like a nose bomb because it hits your nose. Like you can smell it when you open the bottle.
It really does.
and it pairs well with anything. Literally pick any citrus that you have behind but orange or pineapple. If you want to go down the Red Bull route, you can do that. One of my favorite martinis I like to make with it is with pickled ginger, that and Lillet Blanc and a little bit of Cointreau.
You are singing. That sounds amazing.
It's like you can't get that anywhere unless you make it at home. But that's our number 2. Followed by that is going to be our watermelon, which is only a few years old. Made with all Hagerman watermelon. Straight up real flavor. I always tell people the second taste is the best one because you actually get that rind in there.
Yeah.
It's really good, and you can do what actually me and Keith have partnered up on a lot with is, do we call it the vodka? It depends on which place we're at, but we call it a vodka or we call it...
So there's a few drinks that we've been using the watermelon in, and it really depends, like the bar. I'm not going to go down to a dive bar and pitch them on a 7-part drink.
Mm-hmm.
Say I wouldn't go to a super high-end cocktail lounge and try and get them to use... I don't know, name the cheapest triple sec you can think of on the bottom shelf.
The
Kyber.
Okay, boom. All right. But so we do the Vadarita, which basically is just a margarita with watermelon instead. Do a Mexican candy shot. So last year
thing is on fire.
Last year Sazerac came out with told Mango Shot. It's a mango jalapeno tequila. When people ask me about it, I'm like, it comes from the same company that makes Fireball, Sazerac. And it's been great for us because it's really opened up a new lane for people who like spice, want something fruity, but don't want cinnamon whiskey.
Mm-hmm.
So the Mango Shot has been a great lane into that, and it's been absolutely killing it for us. But say you use Mango Shot, use the watermelon vodka because it kind of helps up the proof a little, and then just a dash of lime. And if you're getting real weird with it, put some tahini on the rim.
Yeah.
And that's been killer. Then I'd say right behind that, it's a toss up between our cherry and then just our plain vodka. I hate calling it plain, but that's how people see it.
Classic.
It's a potato vodka, though.
Yeah, potato vodka.
Gluten free. Gluten free.
Everything's gluten free.
Yeah.
And then it's just a solid, clean vodka. I've done multiple trainings with different restaurants this year, and we've put it head to head with other big brands, and ours is typically number 1 or number 2 out of a blind tasting. So people don't know what they're drinking until that we're done, and their tasting notes are always fun to read.
I'll tell you what, next time I'm at, name your favorite martini place, Chandler's or wherever else, I'll definitely get a martini with this nectarine. This is
nectarine is
fantastic.
Insane. It's insane.
The Huckleberry is really good too, but for my flavor profile, what I like, this nectarine is
and if you want if you're at a nice dive bar, you go with the neck
most
bomb.
Often am.
You go with the neck bomb.
Neck bomb.
Yeah.
Is that?
It's a yellow Red Bull, pineapple or OJ, depending on the bar, and this.
Yeah.
That's it. And then cherry comes in, which I brought a taster of that, so we'll try that in a little bit.
My dog is being insane right now.
He wants out, and
then we have some RTDs available as well. So those are kind of popping off. We're actually struggling with keeping our Huckleberry Lemonade RTDs in stock just because the demand is so high right now, and it's really, really going over well. It's perfect for summer, side of the river. And then
RTD for everybody, that's a ready to drink, right? That's a canned cocktail.
So we have cans and bottles of it. And the bottle is 1.75 liters, so it's
shareable.
Yeah. And then we have Alpine Mist, which is we're actually gonna discontinue that soon and go to a cherry limeade. And then we have a berry that is really delicious as well. And if you're in the area of Boise, Idaho, you can go get it frozen at Perea Grill. It's in their frozen machines.
That sounds amazing.
RTDs have just been they've been blown up on the market just for the reason I think it's accessible.
And I think COVID brought RTDs. Like, I don't like blaming a lot of things on COVID, but I think COVID taught people how to like drink at home.
Yeah. I certainly had no idea.
I don't have to buy two different things. I can buy one thing.
I had no idea how to drink at home before COVID. I was lost, and then COVID happened, and like I was like, oh,
I believe
I can
you,
just
I'm
do
sure.
this at my house.
Yeah.
Well, that's what we were talking about before we started recording, was kind of those things like, and I looked at COVID as well, so it's like the trade down, trade across market is when I feel like when people go out, they want to trade down because they are so used to going to, like, here in Idaho, you go to the liquor store, everything's posted. You know exactly what the bar is paying for that bottle. So I think some people do look at it and go, I'm paying $9 for a well bourbon whiskey or well bourbon Coke.
Yeah.
Vodka. Can I get a 2 dozen vodka?
Yeah.
But it's like,
can I get a 2 dozen vodka?
but they're not going to want to pay that, and it's not going to fly.
$11.50.
But
Yeah.
you find your home bars. You know where you can go to affordably drink, socialize, see your friends, spend time out. Have that enjoyable afternoon or enjoyable evening, whatever you're doing, a brunch if you're doing that. But people go home and say, for $37, $38, I can get a bottle of Traveler, and then I can drink the entire thing myself for whatever it costs for a 44 North.
24.
For $24, I can get the entire bottle of 44 North Huckleberry, and I can have it at home myself. So people are starting to want to move away from what I've noticed in trends, at least the bars I hang out, is we're moving more away from the top end, but they're spending more at the liquor stores.
This episode is sponsored by Like Button. Okay, you've started a business and you built a website and a Facebook page. Now, where are the new customers? Navigating the waters of digital marketing is time-consuming, complicated, and costly. So let Like Button do it for you. With plans starting as low as $2,000, Like Button specializes in helping small businesses grow up and larger businesses scale by putting together a strategy and maximizing ROI numbers through paid ads, omni-channel marketing, and even SEO. Go to likebutton.us for your digital marketing needs and get back to doing what you do best. Grow your business with Like Button. When Ben was at Homestead, he introduced the world to, what was it, 32 at 64 ounces? How big was that
The
thing?
Mega Mary.
The Mega Mary.
It was 25 ounces.
25 ounces, and it was Zing Zang, I want to say.
No, so I used a local company called 3 Bar.
That's right.
Which is really cool. It's called 3 Bar because only 3 bars made it. It started out of Idaho City, and they really produced something easy in a bottle. And for the volume I was doing, I always got crap. People were like, hey, you should really like make your own. And I'm like, I'm making 280 Bloody Marys on a Sunday morning.
Yeah.
And 100 of those are 25 ounces.
Yeah. Now, just real quick, sorry, Keith, real quick, we're just going to go through all the mega drinks that we had at Homestead when you were there, right? So
thanks Amazon for being
there was the Shambong, which I think I credit you, both you and Pre-Funk Nampa.
I will tell you 100% I stole that from Pre-Funk.
Okay, good. Perfect. Ryan and Heather are
they're good friends.
Stole it from where? Go ahead.
I would like to think,
you don't have to
I'm 90% sure that Cody bought the Shambongs first, because when Justin had the downtown one, if I remember correctly, and again, this is like 9-10 years ago, so my brain ain't what it used to be, was not stoked to see that Cody was slinging champagne shooters.
This would have been Pre-Funk Meridian?
It would have been Pre-Funk Meridian before he changed it to Heritage Shop House.
Okay,
Yeah.
So we had that. So we had the Shambong.
Shambong, which is a 5-ounce pour.
Yeah, but it's right down your gullet.
Right down the gullet. No bubbles because they all go up. What I always said was it's not going to hurt because the bubbles go up and the drink goes down. And then we also started putting mixed shots in there.
Now
that was super irresponsible.
I can't stress enough how out in the middle of nowhere Homestead was at this point. Linder and Chinden? 5 years ago, 7 years ago, something like that. Would have been 7.
2017, 16.
It was surrounded by a dirt lot, another dirt lot, and there was a dirt lot across the street from it as well.
There's a sign.
And then an unfinished subdivision behind it.
Yeah.
There was a sign that said "Coming soon, Winco." For a long, long time.
For people who were still shooting goose out in front some days because it was unclaimed city territory. Then we did.
It only took him 6 years to get it.
Yeah.
Like let's
So we did the Chambong, we did the Mega Mary, which had, if I can remember, chicken slider,
beef slider.
Oh,
chili,
so he's talking about
pretzel,
sandwiches. These are
pretzel.
sandwich, all this stuff on top. Yep, go ahead.
everything pretzel.
Pretzel.
It was a pain in the ass, but made a lot of money.
Those were $20?
No, we charged 15.
15,
and if
okay.
I remember it, our cost on was $1.76.
There you go.
So
That's what we like to call margin, kids.
yeah. And then at one point, I found that you could buy 750 milliliter champagne glasses.
Giant champagne glass.
So then we did huge mimosas.
What were those? Those were the Sunday brunch mimosas.
Yeah, I don't remember. I think we charged 15 for those too.
Can tell you, but it was not. It was like, wasn't quite like 5 ounces of champagne or 10 ounces of champagne. How many ounces of champagne was in that one?
In the
big one.
the whole bottle.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, the whole bottle.
50, yes.
The whole bottle. And
That's-
then just like a mist of orange juice.
Yeah, I just heard today that place just closed.
Yeah.
Which to me is bittersweet because, as you know, even though I lived nowhere near Homestead, I would do as many promos with you as I could, both with Edge and then again with my distributor, just because I loved going out and seeing you guys. You guys were so much fun.
Well,
And it was it was a real like awesome time to be in the middle of nowhere Meridian.
Well, it was a huge stress case for me because we were doing an event every Thursday.
Yep.
Where I'm carrying, and I was like the big baller. Sorry, I'm making drinks at the same time.
No, you're doing good. Don't ever stop.
I need your glass as well.
Oh, sure.
But we were doing.
I'm still working.
You got
on
to
it.
finish that.
You go ahead and
we were-
talk, and I'll.
Okay, so we were doing tap takeovers like everybody does, but I was never shy on how much anything cost or how many
Yeah.
eggs I would buy. So
Because again, margin.
margin,
Mhm.
and then literally I'd bring in, I don't know, anywhere between 8 to 15 sometimes. My birthday, I brought in 33.
Oh yeah, I forgot about your birthday.
Sockeye, 34 kegs on my
For the
34th
age.
birthday.
Yeah.
And there would be nothing left the day
I
after.
totally forgot about your birthday.
The birthdays were insane.
I remember one time coming in, it was your birthday week, and I brought you, I think, a bottle of Fernet or something, and you said, "Got nothing." I was like, "Man, what the hell? Why not?" Ordered 34 kegs
Yeah.
of sockeye.
I remember after I left Homestead and went over to sell beer, the new sockeye rep was like, "Hey, screw you, man."
Yeah.
And I was like, "What?" And he goes, "My company's asking why we're down 45 kegs in December." And I was like, "Wow, that was my birthday,
Whoopsie
bro.
doodle.
Sorry."
That's awesome. So while
Yeah,
you're
that place
making
was a mess.
while you're making drinks, it was a mess, but it was a good mess, and I think that a lot of people out here are going to miss it.
For sure.
So which products, and Keith, we can go back to you on this real quick while he's mixing over there. Which products do you wish had in your book had more popularity? Which do you think will become more popular? I remember I had a beer when I was at Epic called Hopulent Double IPA that I thought was always going to take off and never really did. So what's something in your book right now that you think you might see on the horizon might take off?
All right. Well, we'll hit all the food groups really fast. Whiskey and bourbon. I mean, Benchmark's already pretty popular. I'd like to see more places run it in the well, just because I think the best bang for your buck. And again, it's a Buffalo Trace product.
That's
so,
the baby Buffalo Trace. we're
Yeah,
talking
and so
about.
the more pallets they have to send us, I'm never gonna be mad about that. Let's see. Tequila Wise Corazon. It's female owned, operated still. Absolutely love that brand. It's a great price. It's a solid Blanco. Always super happy whenever I get it. I feel like I've turned a lot of people onto it just because they're like, oh, like how much does this cost? We're expecting like $35-$36 a bottle, and it's like in the mid 20s here.
Corazon's great.
Yeah, Corazon, yep. Vodka wise, well, how about the Buffalo Trace vodka? Harlan Wheatley's.
Can I also not get that?
No, you
No,
can,
you
you
can't.
get that everywhere now. Thankfully, it's fluffed up enough that we've got it in all the stores. But yeah, Harlan Wheatley's our master distiller, so we have Wheatley vodka. That name has always been a fun one to explain to people that it's not a wheat vodka. It's gluten-free still, but Harlan Wheatley's our master distiller, and so it's his vodka. It's made with the same rye we used to make Pappy. And then, let's see what's left. Rum, Myers. I want to see Myers make a comeback.
Dark. Get that dark.
It's a great flow.
Funky funk.
It's a great flow. It's a great rum. It's just, I just feel like rum drinks just in general, especially here in Idaho.
Both of you guys, former bartenders,
thing.
love rum drinks, right?
Yeah. So
I love to make them at home. I don't like to make them in a bar
Same.
because there's usually a lot of steps to it.
Same.
I've got a
I'm
big
lazy.
tiki background, and Myers is like one of those big calls. And then you go, like we were joking about it the other day, like, hey, if you're gonna make me a Mai Tai, where's the Myers at? Because that's like one of the big calls on it.
You gotta put dark rum in there.
But people just say, it's, and I get it. It's not one of the big. It doesn't have the big name behind it. But yeah, I just want to make a Mai Tai with Captain Morgan as the float, and it's just made me sad a little bit.
That hurts me.
It does. It hurts a little
Well, it's
bit.
got more molasses to it as well.
Myers, yeah.
It's
Yeah.
got that
It's a funk, that nice
funk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
that you want, not
sure.
bad funk.
What about you guys over there at 44 North? Anything you see on the horizon besides, I guess, the watermelon, right?
I think my thing, I want watermelon to blow up, but I'm fighting in the market daily. Oh, that's a summer drink. I don't know if I can carry that through winter.
Yeah.
There's some other stuff under wraps, but that I can't talk about, but would be really cool to hit.
Secrets kill friendships, man.
But yeah, I want watermelon to just take over and really kill it because it's so damn good.
Which markets in Idaho are growing the fastest as far as spirit consumption goes?
2C. All day.
I was gonna say 2C in North Idaho.
The Namptons.
Yeah, the Namptons. So if you're looking at like hands down, Steinbrenner's killing it, and Meridian, he's like slowly getting up to the CDA level.
They passed Sun Valley this year.
Yeah.
Which place? Sorry.
So Steinbrenner owns Frontier, Roosevelt, and 127 now.
In Meridian.
Downtown.
Just in Meridian, downtown.
Mhm.
And then you've got a couple other little guys that are kind of taking in where the people can't get in because they're so busy that they got to go over there. Heritage does really well out there, but then you're looking at Caldwell. They're on fire with Indian Creek.
With spirits.
In Nampa, they've got like 3 new cocktail bars that are beautiful. They're higher end. Like I lived in Nampa years ago, and I was going to the 1918. Like, can I get a vodka soda? And you had to teach the bartender how to make a vodka soda. And then CDA is just popping up. I don't know where they're getting liquor licenses from, but they're just, Coeur d'Alene. They're doing really well up there.
I think some of it is because Washington has such a high sin tax. I know a lot of people like to switch over the line and come over into Idaho for that. And I was just say, Meridian is great. Steinbrenner's, killing it. There's also just a lot more option now in Meridian, where you go to the Roosevelt, which is a really high-end whiskey bourbon bar. You go to Frontier, which is a super fun dive bar, packed shoulder to shoulder on a Friday night. You can go to 127. It's an awesome country saloon. You go over to Heritage. They got craft cocktails and sushi upstairs. You can get sushi downstairs, but upstairs is a sit down.
And they're all
21 and under allowed. Downstairs is 21 and over. But downstairs has 40 craft beers on draft. So Meridian has so much to offer, but it's just not a big population expansion right now. Whereas Nampa is still having that population growth. I mean, Garden City just picked up Heritage Social, which is like a new concert hall, which is doing great.
They're doing amazing.
There's a lot of fun stuff to do in the Treasure Valley. I just think Nampa has the most impact right now because there are so many more licenses coming up, and they're able to experiment and open up so many new concepts with also having a population expansion.
They've actually never ran out of licenses.
Well, exactly. Yeah, that's kind of it. There wasn't even the population to fill up the licenses that they did have.
Let's do a couple of quick ones. Just really one-word answers, really. What's your golf course shot?
Fireball. I know you hate to hear that, but that's the honest truth.
You're not alone. A lot of people.
Rumble.
Oh, Lord, I almost got sick.
That's why mine's Fireball.
What's your favorite cocktail?
Ooh, it's a toss-up between two. I always have two. So it's either a Vieux Carré or a painkiller, depending on what.
You've always liked the Vieux Carré, huh?
The Vieux Carré is hands down one of the best cocktails ever made.
What is it?
You want to know what's in it?
Yeah, sure.
Oh, God, so it's. I feel on the
Benedictine, rye, whiskey,
vermouth, cognac.
Yep.
Peychaud's, Ango. Up. Never on the rocks. Give me a little zest of whatever's behind the bar if you even have Benedictine. And then painkiller. If it's hot out, if you don't have crushed ice, I'm not ordering it. So.
And what about you, my friend?
I'm kind of in the same boat. If it's hot out, I want a hurricane. But if you don't have passion fruit puree, probably just go with either Mai Tai or a margarita. And then my other one is, shout out to Brody. I don't know if he still works at Chandler's or not. I was dead hungover on my, crawling to brunch, but I wasn't going to miss a chance to hang out with my now wife. We were just barely dating back then. And Brody was working at Red Feather, and he could tell how I was dying. He's like, I've got the drink for you. Had no clue what it was. Brought it out. It was a Vieux Carré, and that has become like a go-to hangover drink for me.
Yeah.
And then I taught you how to make the Vieux Carré.
Oh, yeah.
I
didn't have any of the ingredients at home or nothing. Yeah, it was real educational lessons.
So we had there's some backstory on the Vieux Carré for us.
Tell my dad how to make it.
He was having a barbecue at his house. And I was like, bro, you've got like a pretty good selection, but you can't even make a Vieux Carré out of this. So
my vermouth was expired.
Screw that. And so we jammed down to the liquor store, buy everything and come back. And we were just buying ingredients. You can't see it because you're listening. I'm putting it in quotes.
He's finger quoting.
Just things for the Vieux Carré.
Bottle of vermouth.
And he found like $300 worth of stuff
to
buy.
Yeah.
Well, it started with we need vermouth and it's going to expire again. Well, what else can we make with
there's
this?
$12.
Yeah, but then if you start building around, well, do you have this? Well, okay, if we're going to pick up cognac,
Sweet vermouth drink?
Yeah.
Okay.
But the cognac I had apparently wasn't of a good enough quality, so we had to get a different cognac. I already had the Benedictine, and then it was rye whiskey. I think I had Rittenhouse at the time, but I really liked Michter's. So I was like, well, I ran out of Michter's. I'll grab another Michter's rye. Yeah.
That's a favorite of the show too. Love that Michter's.
Snuck that one. Yeah, that was a fun one to come home.
And then I guess that's a non-brand cocktail. What's your favorite cocktail to make?
Paper plane.
I love drinking paper planes. I can't.
Paper planes are great.
I don't like making them.
It's like a daiquiri to me. If the balance is off, it's not the same.
Does it have to be a non-brand cocktail?
It can be it doesn't have to be. It can be.
I'm gonna toot my horn. The one that I made a long time ago that actually made like a magazine article, and I was like really stoked. They named it like the cocktail that defines Boise, and it's Huckleberry Vodka, Cointreau, Lillet, lemon, easy peasy.
Martini style, shaken?
Martini.
Stirred?
Shake always.
Okay.
Other than that, I like.
Does it have a name?
Everybody called it Ben's Martini, and it was so douchey. I hated it.
I love that. I think that's a great name for it.
He hated it, but he's still going to talk about it.
I love making really. When I'm behind the stick, I love making terrible mixed drinks. Purple Vikings, Mexican pussies, liquid marijuanas. Scooby Snacks.
I knew that one was coming next.
Scooby Snacks.
Just like everything. And we're drinking cherry vodka.
There we go. We're doing another one.
Cheers.
Yeah. Cheers.
All right. Yeah, just the Purple Vikings always fun to make. It's easy.
Well, we had a lot of great information there. A lot of cool stuff. We're going to come right back on the Idaho Booze Podcast with summer cocktails right after this. And we're back on the Idaho Booze Podcast with Keith Nero and Ben Hart from Sazerac and 44 North Vodka. We're talking summer cocktails, summer cocks. What do we think now that we're in the dog days of summer? It's hot as balls. What what are some cocktails? I have a couple here listed here. We can also go over some you guys might like out there. The first one I have on my list is a kind of a classic, an oldie but a goodie. The Tom Collins. What do you think about that one there, Ben?
I mean, it's easy. You can get it anywhere, and if you can't get it there, then go to a different bar.
Yep.
But it's just easy drinking, light, especially when you're in the sun or next to the river or something like that. That's all I got.
What would you put into it? Do you like gin in there? Would you do Huckleberry Vodka? Would you do cherry vodka? I kind of think the cherry vodka would taste really good with that Collins mix.
I think it would, but honestly, when it gets really hot out and I'm at a place that doesn't carry cherry, I'm gonna do gin.
Yeah. Moving on, a whiskey spiked peach tea. What do you think about that, Keith? Well, how would you do that?
I'm a big fan of the peach. I'm very fortunate where my wife and I live. We have a peach tree up front. We also have a donut peach tree. We have access to a bunch of like local ingredients. So when I do something like that, I move away from a simple and I get more towards like a honey. So I get murdered by allergies every year, and so a lot of drinks that I make have a honey simple in them instead of a standard white cane sugar simple for that reason.
So now we're getting into it. When he says simple, he's talking about simple syrup.
Simple syrup, yeah.
And so have you guys come across this where you make I just recently made one, a honey simple, and it got grody. It got gross. Does that happen?
Yeah.
I never thought honey could go bad.
So one of the things it's sugar and you're opening it to bacteria. I mean, that's how you make a mash. That's how you make beer.
Speak slower.
Sorry. That's how you make a mash. That's how you make a beer is you expose sugar to bacteria and then they eat it.
Yeah. And it ferments.
Ferments, but it has a byproduct. Something you can do, what is it, for every 375 milliliters of a simple syrup or a simple made process, because you can do like this with agave, you can do it with honey, you can do it with pretty much anything that has a sweetening element to it. You add, half an ounce of vodka to it? Or an ounce of vodka, and it stabilizes it.
That's out of my realm.
But most
interesting.
Most simples only have a shelf life of maybe 10 days.
Oh, really?
I mean, in a restaurant,
you gotta refrigerate.
Yeah, refrigerated, of course. But I found adding vodka, I can usually push about 21 days out of a simple. I just buy small little bottles off of Amazon, and if I'm doing something at home that something like an agave simple that I might only be using for a week or two while my yard has strawberries and I'm doing margaritas, I'm good with that. But if it's something that I use a lot of, then I'll do it in the big 375s or even 750s if I got like a catering or something like that. But
so what would we do if we made a whiskey spiked? What would be like the whiskey you would go to from your book?
I'd want to lean into something a little sweeter, maybe has a little spice to it. I'd want something that has a backbone to hold up against citrus, and something that would mellow out and balance well and wouldn't get overpowered with water. I'd probably either go with like a benchmark small batch or like 1792 small batch is what I'd probably go with.
Right on.
I'd back that.
Is that do you think that's a 1-to-1 cocktail, or is that something where you'd want to
I would over punch it. I'd use 2 ounces of bourbon, but when I'm drinking at home, I'm not paying for it, so I might as well use that extra half an ounce.
I've never had an overpoured drink at your house.
Never.
You've never had one at my house.
You pour your own.
I can usually get home okay.
Yeah.
So the third one here, I have a Huckleberry lemonade.
Easy peasy.
Go.
44 North Huckleberry. Lemonade. Don't get crafty on your lemonade. There's a really good restaurant in Boise called Bitter Creek, and they're all natural ingredients or whatever. They're all locally sourced,
natural.
Natural.
Their burgers, okay.
Organic.
They make really good food. They do everything, but their lemonade is just so homemade that it kind of ruins it. But if you've never heard of this brand, it's because you haven't been to a gas station. Minute Maid is my go-to.
Interesting. Talk more about this.
It hits right with the sweetness and everything. And when you buy a bottle, you can just do a little.
Now that's different than Simple or Simply or whatever that is.
Simply is like real lemonade too.
Minute Maid. I like Country Time as one.
Country Time.
That's a great one.
Country Time. I have a story. I think I made it up, but I think when they came out with shandies in the beer world, that some like brewer just accidentally dumped his
lemonade.
his country time into the batch and went, oh hell.
I've only known brewers to drink two things, and the other one is coffee.
Yeah.
So maybe that could have happened. I'm not saying it didn't happen, but that's my experience.
So usually it's either Kool-Aid, coffee, or low fills.
Yeah, whiskey,
Yeah.
wine.
Yeah.
So the next one I have here, also maybe, I don't know, I've never heard of this drink before. Keith mentioned it, a peach cobbler.
So it's very close to your spiked. It's something I just do at home. When I make the simple syrup for it, I crush up graham crackers and put them in a cheesecloth and then soak them in the simple syrup. It's fun. My mom likes it. It's for my mom.
I feel seen. Do you feel seen, Ben?
And then I put a graham cracker crust on the glass. And then something else that I do to make it special is I use the last of our donut peaches right before they're about to turn, and I'll juice those out. So it's fresh peach juice, a graham cracker honey simple. For bourbon, I use Honey Jack because my mom absolutely loves Honey Jack. I'm pretty sure she's kept Jack Daniels in business. I've tried to convert her ever since I started at Sazerac. I can't. She's a traitor to the family.
That is interesting.
And then a peach slice,
Baron Jaeger,
and then lemon juice on that.
That sounds awesome. And we will have that and all these other recipes in the show notes, so you can check that out to get that peach cobbler recipe, which sounds fantastic. And then we have another one, our fifth one, Ben's Surprise Summer Cocktail. What do you got for us, Ben?
So this one's expensive, but it's one of my favorites.
The old $300 liquor store trip.
Yeah. So it was actually designed by the Mode years ago, or not the Mode, the Modern. And it's equal parts Green Chartreuse, Maraschino liqueur, Fernet Branca, and lime juice. Shaken, and it looks dirty, but it is light and delicious and beautiful.
That sounds like something.
Yeah.
Fernet, I'm sorry, what was it? Fernet, Chartreuse.
And maraschino liqueur.
So if you want one that really also put you in that $300 range, I did this one just to piss off a buddy of mine. I called it a Nutty Buddy, but I used an ounce and a half of Stagg Jr., half ounce of coconut syrup, some of the peach nectar I had left over, a cinnamon simple I made, and then 509 Warren Reserve bitters. So Warren Reserve is a local company, and they make bitters, and they're absolutely amazing.
Yep.
Egg white, crushed up a Nutter Butter in it, and then put a Nutter Butter on the rim and
What?
double strained it over. Oh yeah, just to make him mad. I'm like, hey, what do you do with a bottle of Stagg Jr.? Put an ounce and a half in a mixed drink that you'll never taste.
So I have a couple of drinks that I came up with. You guys let me know. I'm not a professional bartender, nor do I play one on TV. And these are things I came up with. They're sort of locally based. My first one is called The Village. This one is jam-packed with all sorts of shit. Sounds fancy, but it's not. You get a shot of brandy, banana liqueur. You top it with Black Box Pinot Noir and a maraschino cherry. So not only is it horrible to drink, but the bad taste will stay with you for quite some time. Any notes on that one?
I'm not ordering yet.
That sounds like you ran out of everything on Thanksgiving. And you needed to make a cocktail for Grandma because she wouldn't shut up.
I really want people to understand what it's like to be at the Village through a cocktail. My second one is called a Nampa Sour. You have to travel a little bit to make this one. This is a 2C favorite already. You'll need a shot of whiskey, about 5 ounces of any light beer, and then you have to actually get water from the New York Canal. Sounds like Nampa Sour. You can serve that up or on the rocks.
Sounds like DiGiardia.
Yeah.
The best way actually to serve it is probably up or on the rocks. Either way, like I said, with pull tabs and a cigarette. I think would be.
What was the name of it again?
That's the Nampa Sour.
I'd call it the 10 Mile Sour because people don't know what 10 Mile is. They think it's just a road, but it's got a whole.
So much more.
So much more.
All right, I got a couple more. Then we'll.
And the canal goes underneath 10 Mile.
Yeah. The canal. The canal water is really the PS to the system.
Yeah, that's what makes.
That's what you want.
That's what you feel the next day.
So this one's called the I-84 at 4.
Oh god.
Do you guys have pints of 44 North? pint bottles?
No.
Not doing pint bottles yet? It's a good market. Take one of those. You put it under the front seat of the car.
Okay.
And this is about a third of a pint of warm vodka that you find under that seat, mixed with some watered down Diet Coke and then 2 Advil. I think that one would be really good. That's the I-84.
So you are super close to my camping hangover cure.
The I-84 at 4?
You're super close to it. So maybe we can call it like the Boiling Springs boil over. But you get a 12-ounce bottle of water. You crush it as hard as you can.
Yep.
If you can't hold it down, you just don't. But then you chase it with 2 Advils, a shot of whiskey, and then 8 ounces of Coke. And that you have to hold down. And after about 15 minutes, you're going to feel great.
The next one is called the Seven Devils. This is named for Idaho's most famous Class 5 rapids. And it has a splash of everything. You get an ounce each of Buffalo Trace, 44 North Vodka, orange liqueur, Fireball, tequila, cognac, and gin, all shaken up on ice for about 25 minutes and then strained into one of those large water bottles with the carabiner on top of it. You know what I'm talking about? And then you throw some lemon lime liquid IV in there. I think that would be really nice.
Devil's tea.
The Seven Devils.
I think I made a cocktail like that at Homestead, and I called it like the fix, and it had the emergency and the whatever the other powder thing is, and then just all the booze.
All the booze.
And we would
Tasty.
sell the shit out of those on site.
Ugh, Meridian. And then the last one is the Lewiston, sort of like the Manhattan, but the Lewiston. This is, I think, going to be Ben's favorite. It's 1.5 ounces of Fernet, 1 ounce of Underground, 4 dashes of Sweaty Sock bitters. We're going to have to make that. Have the guys at 509 take care of that. Then you top that with an oaky Chardonnay that's been open for a couple of weeks. And then you infuse that with smoke from a burning piece of tire rubber. And that's, I think, Idaho's Port Town finally gets the drink it long deserves, the Lewiston.
I think up until you had me, I'd do it until the tire rubber.
That's an important part.
We can't get Malort here.
I'd say
that is basically
that's
just
actually
Malort.
really good. Yeah, like,
Yeah.
we could literally go make this at home right now.
Yeah, that is basically Malort, right? Yeah.
And then we
Malort.
wouldn't have to wait for infusion.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Well, thanks a lot, guys, for being here. Like you said, I don't think there's any promos or anything you guys want to talk about coming up. You guys cool?
Nope. Just want to give some love to Warren Reserve, a great company locally that makes some fantastic bitters. House-made syrups.
Yep.
They're started by Nick. He also is a proprietor of Craft Lounge out in Nampa and Caldwell. And outside of that, those are probably the 2 big local brands that I use outside of the booze world.
Follow me and pound that like button. Ben the bartender at Instagram.
Yep, that's Warren Reserve, and yeah,
I like Warren Reserve. This is something else we have to talk about.
Libation Education.
Yeah, my buddy and I have an Instagram page where we do some pictures and videos, and it's just a couple guys that have too much free time on their hands that don't work in the bars too much anymore. So
And that's called what's it called?
Libation Education.
Libation Education. All right. Well, we'll make sure to get all that on the show notes for you guys. Really appreciate you guys coming all the way out here to beautiful Eagle, Idaho to hang out. Ben Hart from 44 North Vodka, Keith Nero from Sazerac. Thank you very much for being on the Idaho Booze Podcast. I really appreciate it. We'll be right back with Friday Night Pints. Thanks so much, guys.
Thank you.
See ya.
Welcome back to the Idaho Booze Podcast. I am your host, Steve Kuntz. Wasn't that great? Ben and Keith, awesome guys. Awesome booze that they brought in. The first beer that I tried this week that is a new one is Mother Earth's new Project X Who's Who Hazy IPA. Who's Who. Cool can art, neat graphics as always with the Mother Earth Project X beers. Those beers are always looking tight. This one, green tea on the nose. Real big green tea up front. Lemon rind on the palate. A nice like fruity punch, like a fruit punchy kind of flavor. Sort of that, maybe that old fruit punch that we're used to. Maybe that we grew up with as kids, at least I did. And citrusy finish. Touch of booze at the end with just a little bit more green tea. And then as you start to drink more and more of it, maybe as it starts to warm up, I'm not sure. But you get more sweet tart candy at the end of that beer. And less green tea on the finish and more of that kind of sweet tart candy and more of that fruit punch kind of flavor. This one's a really fun beer. Not really brewed with anything weird. It's Idaho 7, Citra, and Mosaic hops. But a fun beer nonetheless, 7.2% alcohol, found wherever you can find those Project X Series beers. I recommend going out and grabbing a 4-pack of it. Pretty good stuff. Oh, well, we just tasted these back with Benny and Keith. 44 North Nectarine Vodka. Big nectarine skin on the nose. Like, you know when you crack a nectarine open, when you open that thing up? Just like that big skin. What would you call it? Like just a nice amount of nectarine zest, maybe I would call it. Not really sure about that. I'm not really sure if nectarine has a zest. But anyway, you get that nectarine, like almost like when you go to the fresh fruit stand and you see a big pile of nectarines. That's kind of what it is on the nose. First sip is good. You get a nice nectarine flavor with a touch of heat, just a little bit of heat on there. Not a lot. It's actually pretty smooth on the first sip, which usually, for me at least, with vodka and some other 80 proof spirits, I don't get that smoothness a lot on the first sip. But this one certainly had it. The second sip, and Ben alluded to this a little bit on the pod earlier, second sip brings more nectarine flesh, a little less heat. So you get more of that smoothness, more nectarine, more smoothness, almost like maybe the second bite into that nectarine, smooth finish. I would love somebody to come up with a creamsicle shot with this. That would be amazing. Just do like a nectarine creamsicle. That would be fantastic. Anyway, this is 80 proof. You can find it all over the place at all the Idaho State liquor stores. Then Keith brought this one in, Traveler's Whiskey. I gotta tell you, this was an interesting whiskey. I don't know that I've had anything quite like this, especially for one that's just right around 90 proof. I get corn husk and toasted grains right on the front of this whiskey with a slight burn. For a 90 proof, it's pretty smooth, but it's not like as smooth as the 80 proof vodka, that's for sure. Finish is light with a touch of lemon rind, corn husk, and brown sugar. And just a really nice overall kind of deeper, darker flavor for this whiskey. I would grab this one for old fashions, and I'd also sip this one on a Big Rock, 90 proof. You can find that, I think, everywhere. I think it's at all the Idaho liquor stores. I'm not sure if it is or not. But if you find it, pick it up. Travelers, 90 proof. Good beer. Or good whiskey. New brewery alert. We talked about these guys last week. Farmers Brewing from Chico, California. These guys came out with a couple of IPAs I saw on the market. I grabbed the hazy called Garage Dweller. Not because of any personal identification with that particular phrase, Garage Dweller. Although I have been known to live out some winters and even some summers out in the garage for sure. As most of us have, I'm sure. Anyway, the Farmers Garage Dweller Hazy IPA. A nice little hazy. Nothing too outstanding or wrong with this beer, actually. It's really tasty. Strawberries and stone fruit on the nose with some lemon zest. Stone fruit, melon, lemon comes through on the palate really nicely. Sweet on the finish, not too bitter and not too sweet either. It's a nice little hazy. I would definitely recommend picking this one up in the 6-pack. Plus, awesome can art. Put a farmer on your lips, it says, which, we're all for sexual innuendo here at the Idaho Booze Podcast. 7.5% ABV. Look for it in 6-pack, 12-ounce cans. Freem out with another beer. This one, part of their big seasonal IPA package, Citrus Zest IPA. Try saying that 10 times fast. Big grapefruit notes on the nose. I guess they added zest into the mash with this one, or maybe into the boil. I'm not sure. So big grapefruit notes on the nose with ripe melon, lime zest. That grapefruit really follows through with a little bit of lime into the palate. Nice smooth finish. Not as bitter as some of these other ones have been in the black can, but a nice IPA nonetheless. Really tasty. I applaud Freeman for putting out these beers and for sending them to Boise. It's really nice to have these 16-ounce sort of seasonal IPAs that they do, and their beers are also good anyway. Anyway, give this one a try. Citrus Zest IPA. It's 6.3%. You can find that anywhere you find those Freem big 16-ounce cans. Then our friends from Jackson Roadhouse with a new beer, Plasma Hazy IPA, peachy and citrusy on the nose with just a touch of mint and something sweet. I was thinking maybe cantaloupe. Pretty in the glass, orange, yellow, vibrant beer with a thin white head. You get peach cobbler on the tongue, lemon, mint, a bit of green tea on the finish. Tells me there might be some Idaho 7 hops in there. The finish is nice. Lemon zest, touch of bitterness to offset the sweet of the beer, which is really good. Another great one from Max and our friends over at Roadhouse. This is a hazy that you should try if you haven't tried it already. Their other ones are really good. The Walrus is a great beer. I'm really a big fan of Wilson West Coast IPA. That's one of my favorites, but Roadhouse out with a Plasma Hazy IPA here. Give it a try, 6.9% in the 16-ounce can. Looks like we have some Cantillon bottles sighted in the market. Brewers Haven is where a secret shopper sent me a picture of 2 amazing bottles they picked up while at Brewers Haven. And also down a couple bucks in the old wallet, I'm sure. Now, Cantillon, pretty good stuff. I would recommend getting over there and grabbing them as soon as possible before they're gone, because it's one of those things where they only allow a certain amount to go wherever it is they go. So make sure you pick up a couple of Cantillon bottles before they are gone. Well worth the price. Cantillon, one of the more amazing Belgian beers. I don't have to tell you guys that, you know. Anyway, so that's going to be the show for today. As per usual, if you have anything that you'd like to tell me or anything you'd like to add to the program, go ahead and email idahoboozepod@gmail.com, and we'll get that. We'll register those complaints and make sure that you are heard. Great show, like I said. Thank you very much to my guests, Ben Hart, Keith Nero from 44 North and Sazerac Brands. Really appreciate you guys coming on and talking summer cocktails with me, and also going over a little bit of your past and what you guys do over there in the spirit world. Always looking for new guests. If you feel like you are an important part, or even not that important part, of the Idaho booze scene, go ahead and give me a shout. Email us at idahoboozepod@gmail.com, and we'll make sure to schedule you up for an interview, get you on the pod. Anyway, that's it for me. I'm Steve Kuntz. Thank you so much for joining us. Good day and good drinking, my friends.